Ashen is a Souls-like game developed by Aurora 44. It's their first game, and for an up-and-coming indie studio, I'd say that it's a brilliant first impression. I first bought the game in August 2019, but I had heard of the game since its launch in 2018. Unfortunately, due to its low-profile release, it didn't gain all that much traction. Ashen is also the first Souls-like game I've ever played. Dark Souls and its lookalikes, such as Bloodborne, have never interested me due to their grim and grotesque aesthetics. Well, what makes Ashen so different then? Why did it pique my interest so much? I mean, after all, nobody in the game even has a face. Which is true, nobody, except for one exception, has a face. The game's art style is extremely minimalist, opting for a more low-poly look and feel of the environments and characters. And it really works. The style each character and enemy is presented in is unique and adds a large amount of charm to the world. In my opinion, art styles that deviate from the traditional realistic aesthetics of most games are instant wins. I fell in love with the design of this world. On the topic of the game's aesthetic, the environments are some of the best that I've seen. Every region of the game has a unique feel to it, but what makes it special to me is the fact that the regions seem to blend together very fluidly, unlike most games with diverse locations. I'm looking at you, Subnautica. An aspect of this is the muting of the colors in the environment. Most environments are deeper, darker shades of green, blue, gray, or brown. Despite this, each environment has its own unique feel, while not feeling like the environments are changing too drastically. But this is a Souls-like game. Pretty environments matter, sure, but what about the enemies that populate them, or loot to find? Armor, weapons, shields, and items can be found throughout the world. As the difficulty of the game progresses, the items that you pick up scale with the area. Each piece of gear you find is themed with its region, which is good because I'm all about aesthetics keeping a certain theme. However, a lot of them tend to be reskins of clothing or weapons enemies use. This doesn't bother me much and can be written off pretty easily considering that this is an indie game, but it's something worth noting. It's also worth noting that weapons can be upgraded with materials gained from killing enemies. A simple leveling system, but it keeps me playing the game for more and more powerful upgrades. I know this isn't unique to Ashen, but it's worth mentioning. As far as enemies go, it's probably on the sparser side of things. A lot of enemies are very strong, of course, this is a Souls-like, but most of them tend to be similar to each other. Boss design is also a little on the underwhelming side. 2 of the 5 fights in the game take place against enemies who show up later as rank-and-file opponents, while the unique boss encounters are fun but not particularly difficult except for the final boss. I'm again willing to excuse the sparseness of enemy design to the studio still being up and coming, but it would be a lie to say I wouldn't appreciate more. The final part of Ashen I want to talk about are the dungeons. There are 2, one pretty early on and another later in the game, and both of them heavily skew the game's difficulty. Combat outside of dungeons is rather trivial, difficult yet not too punishing. Dungeon combat, however, is very difficult and will take players dozens of tries to even get past the first checkpoint. I'm only going to talk about one, though, and that would be the Seat of the Matriarch. The Seat of the Matriarch, in my opinion, is horror done beautifully. It thrusts the player into a massive underground labyrinth in almost complete darkness and says, "Good luck, nerd," and you'll definitely need luck. The environment is stellar. It heavily reminds me of Destiny's Vault of Glass, an alien vault not made to be traversed by humans, too big to be navigated and almost pitch black. This, coupled with the art style of the game and its difficulty, led to one of the greatest gaming experiences I've ever had. All in all, Ashen is an amazing game and a wonderful debut for Aurora 44. I hope this art style becomes a staple of their games, and I also hope they make more games similar to this one, perhaps even a sequel? Whatever the case, Ashen is a perfect baby step into the Souls-like franchise and an amazing experience overall that I cannot recommend enough. Thanks for watching.